Well, if it seems as if you just voted last month, well, you did. Yet tomorrow is primary day in Virginia.
There are 12 contests in 5 local candidates in 5 local contests. Mike Gooding tells us despite the big things at stake, turnout is likely to be modest.
Control of Congress could hang in the balance. With so much at stake, the question is how many citizens are actually going to participate in Tuesday's primaries. During the last June primary in Virginia last year for governor, a total of 907,000 people out of a total of 5.4 million registered voters voted, representing a voter turnout of 16.5%. Christopher Newport University political analyst Rachel Bidikofer says, with Virginians just having gone to the polls last month for municipal elections, there could be voting fatigue.
There's constantly an election, and I do think that could depress participation because it does kind of feel like it's always happening.
In Tuesday's Republican primary for U.S. Senate, there are 3 GOP hopefuls, Corey Stewart, Nick Freitas, and E.W. Jackson, all vying to take on incumbent Democrat Tim Kaine. On the House side, in the 2nd Congressional District, Republican incumbent Scott Taylor faces opposition from within his own party from Mary Jones. Additionally, 2nd District Democrats are also holding a primary featuring Elaine Luria versus Karen Mallard. And 2 other primaries to keep an eye on tomorrow. In the 1st Congressional District, Democrats Vanjie Williams, John Sidarth, and Edwin Santana Jr. will square off for the right to challenge incumbent Republican Rob Whitman in November. And in the 4th Congressional District, Republican Ryan McAdams and Cheyenne Fenty are facing off for the opportunity to challenge incumbent Democrat Donald McEachin in the fall. Mike Gooding, 13 News Now.